here sitting in the Prime TC chair, which you designed, which is being produced by Stryker. And can you tell me a little bit about what makes this chair so different from the wheelchairs that we have now in the hospital?
Well, it's got several features. The chairs in the hospitals now were designed in the 30s, and they're exceedingly uncomfortable, and they're allowed to get very old in hospitals. This one has a contoured seat in back, as well as arms that help you if you were to scoot forward. If you were to grab onto that and scoot forward, this is called a stand assist arm, so that the patient can get out if they're going for their MRI and they want to get onto a cot. They can do it themselves, or they can have help. And getting back down is the same thing. I love what the arms can do for it, and then the contouring of the seats, and that's not going to change over time. We've got one that flexes a little bit in back, another chair for the hospital room, and that is equally comfortable. This also starts to limit the necessity of the clinician to bend over and to put the pedals down and so that you'll have someplace to put your feet. The current affair is that those pedals are often down, and the patient trips getting into the chair. But these are always in the up position unless you stand on it and bring the pedal down. Mm-hmm. You can also operate them from this yellow button here, or the clinician can, and get them thrown out of the way back here if you want to get rid of them altogether. And of course the arm goes up. There's a button here, and you pull that, and the arm comes up, so that you can make this. I could transfer from this chair to that chair through a sliding board. So that's important as well. And then we wanted an easy place for the clinician to hold on to push the chair. They can push it with one hand and walk next to you and tell you where you're going and what part of the hospital. This is a chair where you don't propel it yourself. The hospital wants somebody else to take you because it's not a wheelchair. It's a transport chair, and they will take you to the right. They don't want you to get lost in the hospital, so they always have somebody with you. But once you get to the room for, let's say, an MRI, you might wait for an hour. And so the chair has to be very comfortable. I have a spinal injury, and if I had to wait in the current chairs for an hour, it would be extremely uncomfortable for me, short of painful, I suppose. So this helps that a lot, and allows somebody to spend an hour in the chair without getting in a terribly uncomfortable position.
Right. Yeah, and I can tell just from sitting here that it is more comfortable. And what you were saying about the armrests, I can see how it helps the patient move and transport.
Yeah, it works both ways, getting in and getting out. Getting into the chair, you can lean back like this. If you were standing here, you could put your hands behind you, and those arms would tell you where the seat is.
Right.
So that's important too.
Well, that's a great design.
Yeah.
And so you're an architect by training, a very renowned architect. How is it that you came to be designing hospital items?
Well, I was paralyzed 9 years ago, and I was in hospitals. I was in 8 hospitals and 4 rehab centers over a 3-year period. And I said to myself, it can't be this bad. Every one of them was worse than the last. And I thought somebody ought to do something about this. And given that I was an architect and designer, as well as a patient, I thought I suddenly had the credentials to do that. And so we did a lot of investigation, went to 40 hospitals and looked and took a lot of pictures, talked to a lot of patients. But everything we're doing now is patient-centered, so that we're trying to get it right for them. And at the same time, when I say that the clinician can put his or her foot there and the pedal will flip back. That's for the clinician, not, it is for the patient too, but it's where they overlap. So you
Right.
want to do that as well.
Yeah.
But I have now designed 5 pieces of furniture for Stryker, and I have a contract with another company to design small safety pieces for the house, for the residents, so that things you can take home without it screaming somebody's sick here.
Right, yeah. And so when you were a patient in those 8 hospitals, what were the sorts of things you noticed that made your experience so difficult?
Well, the furniture simply didn't work. The Stryker has a bed that has a lot of gadgets on the side, and it allows you to call the nurse's station. It allows you to raise the armrest up and down. It allows you to do a lot of things. Most of the hospitals don't have that. So with their bed, you get rid of a lot of the ills. But the over-the-bed table was a source of infection because the cleaning crew is not the most careful in the world, and they should be, but they're not, and they're probably not going to be. You have to make a table which just screams where they should clean it. So we made very big handles so people could move it around easily, but they would clean the handles and the top surface. We don't want them to even look at the bottom because nobody ever does that. And if you look at underneath the hospital bed, you'll see, little field mice. It's really, it's a trip to do that, and we are doing everything we can to lessen infection in the patient room. 99,000 people die in every house in the hospital in 1 year, more than all of AIDS and all of automobile accidents put together. That's an alarming number. They die from diseases that they get in contact with in the hospital. So we can overcome that.
Right. And so it seems that your interventions are not only targeting the patients and the physicians, it's kind of a all-around approach where you're even helping the cleaning staff, for example,
Oh, you have
an
to.
easier
Yes.
time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we need to make it easy for the cleaning staff, whether it's on an over-bed table or a cabinet or whatever. We, instead of like a modern designer might hide the drawer pulls, we make them very obvious. So we design nice ones, but we make them obvious so that the cleaning staff will know to clean that part of it and not just walk away from them because they can't see them.
Right, yeah. And when you have been interviewing patients to come up with the ideas for your designs, what sort of things have they told you?
They mostly bemoan the rooms they've been in and complain about things that I've already discussed and dealt with. There's not too much new. I had a doctor come up to me recently, and he said, "Have you done anything about the anesthesiology room?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You've got to." And he said, we're going to have a major accident there. And so I asked him if he would write it down for me. Now, he's not practicing anymore. He said he would. And now we can go after that.
I feel like there will be so many more things for you to keep going after.
I
You
hope
have
so.
your work cut out for you.
Yeah, I know we do.
In every room in the hospital.
Exactly.
Truly. Can you tell me a little bit more about the other things that you have designed for the hospital? So there's this chair, there's the table.
We've done some small products for the bath, a bath stool, a bath bench, a heating pad, a cane that comes out of a bag. If you unzip the bag, the cane comes out, and you can walk with the bag and the cane, and then you can snap it back together again. So it's just a small bag like this. We've also gone to the other scale. We're now designing the new Steadman Clinic in Vail, Colorado. Steadman's the leading doctors in orthopedics, and we're really pleased to be working with them. So we're working at the large scale as well as the small scale.
Right. So are you redesigning the building itself?
We're
in that
designing it from
facility?
scratch, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're doing another one in Ocean City, New Jersey, South Jersey, another orthopedic clinic.
I see. And how will these clinics that you design from scratch be different from other orthopedic clinics
Well, we
existing
hope
now?
we can cut down on the walking distance that people take in buildings like this, simply because we make better plans, and that we keep the privacy intact for those who want it, and make public those things that should be public. Oftentimes they're confused with each other, and they get in the way. So it's a matter of knowledge of how to do that, and to put yourself in the place of those people. Somebody waiting, somebody being interviewed, somebody being cared for, somebody in therapy. All those things you have to identify with in your own body.
Right, yeah. I mean, it seems like a very obvious solution that you should put yourself in the shoes of the patients. Why is it that we haven't been doing that in hospital design for the past few decades?
I don't think it's been in the interest of the architects to do that. Certainly isn't interested in the interest of the CFO of the hospital. They're only looking at the bottom line. So we've got to get those things in line, where the CFO gives the architect the budget, and the budget is cared for and looked after and nurtured and held to be the final number, and not something that the architect is allowed to go over.
Yeah. And where do you see it going from here? How do we get more people to care about patient-centered design in hospitals?
Well, we worked for Target for 13 years, and I'm sorry that relationship is coming to an end at the first of the year. But when we started, no big box store was doing design, and now they're all doing it. And in fact, one of the issues with Target is they have now 500 in-house designers, so they don't need me. But the stakes were, the bar was raised so that they couldn't have clothes or products for the home or small appliances without a heavy dose of design. We even saw after we would come out with a new line, the major manufacturers would adhere to the colors and the shapes that we were using to keep up with the Joneses. So all of that we think will come up as what we're doing now gets published and people see that they can't go to sleep on it anymore. We require that the people in our office spend a week in a wheelchair to see what it's like. You can imagine doing your work from that chair for a week, and if you dropped your papers on the floor, how would you get them?
Yeah.
You have to know how to use a reacher. It's a device which is simple, but you've got to do it. And you have to do it by yourself for your own self-empowerment.
Yeah, and I think it would even be a good idea for med students or physicians to spend some time as a patient would in a wheelchair or perhaps in a hospital bed.
You should do that.
Just to see what it's like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Joyce, that's your requirement. You see that somebody in your class writes a paper after they've spent a week in a wheelchair. It could be you.
And what has patient response been to your designs?
Well, I was just in Houston where we were selling this furniture to some people in the Houston Medical Center, which is the largest in the world. And the Houston Medical Center is made up of every denomination of hospital. I don't know how many acres they have, but it's enormous. And it is all Hill-Rom, the competitor to Stryker. And they asked Stryker in because of this new furniture. And so we think we can not only sell the furniture, but sell the beds to them as well. So we're really pleased about that. But when I was there, they told me that 20 hospitals were now looking at the furniture. So that's had bought it.
Oh, wow.
And so we're really pleased number.
That's great. And have you received feedback from any patients who have perhaps tested the chairs?
No,
And how they feel
not
about
yet.
it?
It's too early, I think.
To come in the
Yeah.
future.
It will come. It will come. I just wrote an op-ed page in the New York Times, and I've gotten 40 or 50 letters, so it'll come.
Yeah.
People will write.
And what is your ultimate goal? What would you like to see happen in hospital design?
Well, back in the 30s, there was a hospital that was designed by a Swedish architect, Alvar Aalto, pretty well known to architects, not so much to the general public. Aalto's dead now, but he did a sanatorium, which still stands as a model, where people could get out onto a terrace and look at a forest of fir trees in a chaise longue, and like deck chairs on an ocean liner, and that was breakthrough stuff then. We can do that in weather like you've got here, but nobody ever thinks of doing it. But there's so many things we can do for therapy, as well as for the room itself.
Great. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with us today?
Well, I think we've touched a lot of bases.
Great. Well, thank you so
You
much.
too,
We
Joy.
really appreciate your time, Mr. Graves.
I've enjoyed it.